Hey everybody, welcome to the latest edition of the Bison video blog, brought to you by Gate City Bank with the reporter, Jeff Kolpack from the Forum of Fargodome. I'm Dom Izzo from WDAY Sports. I've got a first-time team coming to town, Jeffrey. The Murray State Racers will make their debut at Gate City Bank Field at the Fargodome on Saturday. We'll get the full download on Dean Hood's team here in just a little bit as the Racers in their first trip around the Missouri Valley Football Conference. I want to get a full breakdown of what happened on Saturday. We had our poll question on Hot Mic this morning asking Bison fans how they felt today heading into the weekend as opposed to before the game with Western Illinois. And 80% said about the same. So, yeah. And it's hard to gauge really against a football team like Western Illinois how good NDSU was or how impressive it was any of the performances that we saw.
It tells me the viewers of your show are pretty well educated because I don't think any of us really know. What do you get from Western Illinois? I mean, and again, I don't want to beat on them. Let's move on from the Leathernecks. They're on their way to Ohio Valley. They have issues. They have school institutional issues with enrollment. We understand that. But to answer the question, and that's what we're here for, what do you learn from playing a team like that? Not a whole lot, other than, hey, it's good for confidence. It's good for your young players to play. And
it's a win.
And it's a win, It's and hopefully they only lost Joe Stoffel maybe for a little bit, but relatively healthy out of that. And you know, it's hard in college football to enjoy the moment, enjoy the victory. It's important. You know, I hope the players enjoyed winning because because I mean,
we always are told winning's hard, right?
Yeah, it is. Well. We thought maybe they had to win with some style points, and I thought there were some style points involved in the way NDSU went about its business. I thought they had some pretty dynamic runs defensively. They held Western to not much as expected, but you know, good teams bury bad teams. Good teams don't let bad teams hang around. You know, like Western hung around UND for the first half, had a 12-minute drive. Good teams don't let them do that.
So. You mentioned Joe Stoffel. Matt Entz brought up in his Monday press conference that Stoffel got banged up. For those who watched the game, had a great touchdown reception against Western Illinois and a pass from Cole Payton. He went down hard on his right shoulder. He was slow to get up. He did not come back into the game. We had a shot on the sideline, Kolpack. His right arm was in a sling to start the second half. He's NDSU's second leading receiver, most touchdown receptions at 5. He's been Cam Miller's guy. When they need a play in the red zone, it's been Stoffel, the guy he's looked for.
I feel like he's had a little Ben Ellefson look to him.
He has had a run like that.
Yep, and Ben Ellefson had that kind of a run during his career at NDSU, were so effective in the red zone and such a target. And Joe Stoffel, he may not be as fast as Ben, but he's pretty close. Yeah. He's pretty close. I think he's developed into a pretty complete tight end, like we've seen in this program over the years. And hopefully for NDSU's offense sake, he'll only be out for a week or two.
So I asked Matt Entz if that means it's Finn Diggins next up, and he said it's probably going to be a little bit of a rotation there, a guy by committee. That Carson Williams comes to mind, and he had a big reception of the game on Saturday. I know you profiled him earlier this season. This is a young man who transferred in from the University of Buffalo in the MAC from Marshalltown, Iowa, that has the size. He redshirted last season, and now we're starting to see him really come into form.
Yeah, I think the dig on him is from the coach's standpoint. He's had to learn a point of attack at line of scrimmage stuff, meaning blocking and being physical. I think he's got the tools and the speed to be that receiving tight end. But you know, with the fullbacks, tight ends, they can really fix them in a variety of ways.
I imagine Brosio's going to get a lot of run there too, you'd think, right?
Yeah, well, and Finn Diggins has proven himself. In my mind, I think he's proven himself enough to really get a shot at
to catch the ball. I mean, he's 6'4", Diggins, 6'4", 247. Williams, 6'4", 242. So I mean, they're almost carbon copies of one another. And Stuffel's is 6'4", 242 as well. So they all bring a little bit different to the table, but they're all the same size basically.
Well, and the tight end's so important in the Bison offensive attack. You talk about weapons and trying to use all your receivers. Right. That includes using your running backs and tight ends. And whether you go from Noah Gindorf to Ellefson to you just go through the list of the tight ends in Division I era.
Go back to Matt Veldman, right? I mean, granted, he was 3 inches taller at 6'7", but same kind of body type as well that we're talking about there. Now, speaking on the injury side, Julian Wodarczyk is week to week, is what Matt N said. That likely means maybe another start for Oscar Benson, who made his first start in 2023. Had a couple of tackles, a big pass breakup that led to Logan Kopp's interception. Young man from Hillsborough who got thrust in. He started 5 games last year, Kolpack, and then was benched after that. I think we're starting to see why the coaching staff is so high on this guy, that he's athletic enough to go and make plays like that.
Well, and that position is a playmaking position, Dom, outside linebacker. Again, you think of a Travis Beck and some of these guys. That spot is a spot. It's a spot in space. It's a position where you can make a difference, and just with that deflection there, the guy you're talking about a nice dive and deflection, and there's a play. You got to make those kinds of plays as an outside linebacker.
I imagine we're going to see him starting again. Cole Wisniewski's status is still up in the air as well. He was practicing at the end of last week. I would anticipate maybe seeing either Ryan Jones or Darius Givens on the back end again here for the Murray State game.
Darius Givens got some plays. He got a lot of plays, and he's got, you talk about athleticism, he's got that frame, 6'2" and 210, 215. He's got that frame you're looking for. Ryan Jones has been around. I think he played pretty steady against Western Illinois. I'm guessing he'll get the start, but maybe Darius Givens is another younger player who has earned a couple more snaps.
6'3" is Givens.
6'3".
He's a big dude back there. Matt Entz has been super high on him since they got him out of high school, out of Champlain Park, that potentially we get to see him more play against the Racers. Speaking of which, there's been a lot said. You and I have spent a lot of time. We've written a lot of words about Murray State's acceptance into the league. It's a done deal. I'm not going to go over that. I might do that on Wednesday with Big E, but they're here. They've won 2 football games. They won their very first game against Indiana State. They've lost their next 3 after that. This is a team that mostly players were looking from, I would say, the Tennessee, Kentucky, Alabama, that part of the world. There's a few from Illinois sprinkled in as well, but that's where the area they're looking. Traditionally, they were struggling in the Ohio Valley Conference. This is going to be an upward challenge for them in the Mo Valley.
Well, the question number one I have is, can they raise the money to be more competitive in football? And can you raise the funds and NIL and cost of attendance and those things that I think that are pretty important to compete at the top of the league. Their quarterback's pretty good. DJ Williams right here, as we see, he's a pretty mobile guy, and you see he's moving around there, found some space to make a play against South Dakota. That's a pretty good play against a pretty good Coyote defense there. So DJ Williams will be priority number 1 for the Bison defense, not let him get out of the pocket and try to collapse it a little bit.
I'm just interested in the athletes that they have. They play 2 FBS teams out of the gate this season. They were against Louisville, a game I watched earlier in the year. And I mean, we're talking about ACC and Missouri Valley.
And they played 5 days later.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's a tough bet there. But they did handle their business, as you saw, against Indiana State. We just don't know a whole lot about them. That's the intriguing part, I think, for Saturday for fans that are wondering, well, I want to go to the game or not. This is a new team. They are going to be part of this league with Western Illinois moving on. Murray State is now part of it, and they're on the rotation. The Bison will go to Murray, Kentucky next season as part of this.
Well, and statistically, they're not that great.
Correct.
I mean, Western Illinois was not great last week. You look like they're 99th in scoring offense.
98th in scoring defense. Yeah.
Right. Well, at least it's consistent.
They do have that going for them there. That's the part that it's just going to be an upward climb. Can they raise the money? How much are they invested in football? And can they get the kind of players they're going to need to contend with a team like this?
And can you invest in facilities? We haven't been there. We'll be there next year when NDSU travels. But the stadium, what I can tell, stands on one side. I think you got to probably close it and make it a little more college atmosphere like. It's a basketball school. Let's be honest, Dom. It's a basketball school, and that's why they're in the Missouri Valley. The Valley wanted them for basketball, and football came along for the ride. But and they admitted they got to invest more when they. Okay, well, let's see it now.
We'll see
I know it's only been a year.
Exactly.
But
you got to put your money where your mouth is on that.
And I got to call into the AD. Hopefully, it's like, what's the long-term plan here?
Real quick before we go, and we're going to have our first unveiling of the top 10 playoff rankings from the FCS Playoff Committee on Thursday. We talked about this morning, and I just visited with Matt Larson about this, who's on the playoff committee, who's going to be pounding his hand on the table for Valley teams, and then has to leave when his own team is brought for discussion. But as we sit here with 4 weeks to go, there are 12 teams in the Missouri Valley, right? 9 of them have 3 losses or fewer. which, again, there's still
got to be a record.
There's a lot of games left to be played. I understand. But we could have, Kolpack, a real conversation when we get to Selection Sunday of a couple of 7-4 teams on the outside of the playoffs in the Missouri Valley that don't get in because they maybe don't have a strong enough resume.
South Dakota State and South Dakota will be ranked.
Yes.
That much.
Come Thursday,
yes.
Yes.
And that's the poll that matters. That top 10, that's the one that matters.
It's a snapshot of where we are right now, correct.
But then you got two teams, 5-2, NDSU and Southern Illinois. I don't think they'll get the sniff, but
no.
Nope.
But here, the thing is, to me, is how many do you see as we sit here on October 23rd, come November 19th, who's in the tournament? 6 or 7?
6. Yep, I'll say 6. 7's just asking a lot.
And I think Illinois State could look to this past Saturday, losing to Youngstown State. That might be the thing that kicks them out. And Northern Iowa, Kolpack, they're like a cockroach. You can't get rid of them. They're 3-1. They had the big win against UND. They still have North Dakota State at their place. They have a monster game this weekend in Normal against Illinois State. Now watch it. That's a game that you and I will go and lose.
Illinois State could really mess things up again.
But that's, I mean, the Valley got 6 teams in a couple years ago. I'm with you. I think they have a great chance to get 6. But a 7th team could win 7 games and be left out.
But here, South Dakota State just keeps doing what it does, and it's just a little stronger than everybody else. I don't think anybody will beat them this year, and that includes through Frisco. Yeah. They got that look of a team that we've seen NDSU have over the years. Just so solid and deep offensively, defensively, and special teams.
USD plays the Jacks this weekend
They're
in Vermilion.
Home.
Sold-out crowd, too, in Vermilion. The last time they were there was the Vermiracle, as we remember. That's what's going to take, I think, for USD to beat SDSU this time. I really do.
Vermiracle Part 2.
I have to look as well on those standings at 4 and 5. NDSU and SIU. They're going to play each other in the next to last week of the season. Southern Illinois Kolpack has that FBS win. But also they got destroyed by Youngstown State. So I'm sitting there, I'm like, I don't know how to fully gauge what SIU is yet this season.
You can't. Until in, 3 weeks when they come to Fargo. That's going to be the number one, I think, litmus test for the Salukis.
And I think as well for the Bison. Right. Because I don't think they're going to
winner of that probably makes it.
I don't think they're going to beat the Jackrabbits. I think they have a good chance NDSU winning at Northern Iowa. That SIU game on November 11th, I'm circling it right now. That is a huge, maybe the biggest regular season game in a long time inside the building for playoff implications.
I think you're probably right on that.
Going to be a lot of fun to see what happens.
You're right.
I know. Kolpack once at a time. I get one right on them. Don't forget, full coverage all week long at Inforum.com. Jeff, Mike, and Eric will have stories. Back here on Wednesday, Big E's making his debut on the Bison Media Zone with me as we'll talk plenty on Murray State in the upcoming week. Of course, don't forget the game you can see live on WDAY. Coverage begins at 10 a.m. with Bison Game Day, and then we're back at 2:20 with the kickoff at 2:30 between the Racers and the Bison. For Jeff Kolpack, I'm Dom Izzo. That's the latest Bison video blog brought to you by Gate City Bank.